of the car looks like it's sitting low. It actually sits like it's got a really good stance. So everything basically just comes down and out to the wheels. And those lines really help the car have presence and a real nice dynamic. If I take you through down the side of the car, you notice that those lines from the front, they come up all the way up the A-pillar, all the way through to the cant line. And you'll notice those lines also go through to the other side, up the cant, back down and back to the front. And again, it's this racetrack lines that we took those lines from. But you'll also notice we've got what we call the double wave, these lines here, where it dips in the middle, comes up and becomes pronounced over the wheels. And what that does is actually sets the car on the wheels. But it also allows the cabin to be much lower down, so you get a much kind of more coupe kind of feeling with the car. So this lower glass barrel here, the shoulder and the body section makes the car sit really low visually and also gives that really nice dynamic presence to the car. You notice that right at the bottom here we've got a little bit of sculpture kicking out here, and what that does is also lifts the car visually. It doesn't make the car heavy, so it actually looks like it's very agile as well. I'll take you through to the rear. At night time we have a very strong graphic with these light rods coming through here. And what we looked at was illumination from Le Mans when the cars are driving at night. They come into a bend, they go around, and those light beams kind of get from thick to a thin, and it gives a lot of dynamic. And that's exactly what we wanted to do here, thick to a thin, and then bring those graphics inside, back around, back through here, back around, and you're getting this very nice dynamic lines, a lot of movement and a lot of drama. But what it also does, kind of accentuates the width of the car as well, but it also brings the car low down. And also as you look down the car from these lines here, you also notice how much wedge, how much angle, shoulder angle this car's got, because that actually makes the car visually looking like it's moving, but it's standing still. And that's a really important feature of this car. Okay, on the interior, as I said, the best part of the car, of course. When we started designing this car, I was just finishing S60 V70 and S80, and we were talking a lot about spa, about feeling of well-being, about feeling in control after a long journey. You feel relaxed, comfortable. So we had a really nice design language, and then we said, okay, we need a sporty car. How do you make that into a sporty car? Spa. How do you do that? You know. So sitting at the summer house, I was just drawing and drawing and drawing, and I just couldn't figure it out what was going on until I started drawing spirals. And I came back into work the following Monday and started to put those lines on top of the instrument panel. See it right here? This line goes all the way from the front, all the way through to the passenger side. Basically, that line flows through here, comes through here, into this area here, and actually cocoons the driver cockpit. And as I put the lines on the instrument panel, Jose de Vega, my boss at the time, said, "Looks like Spa, you know, the Belgian racetrack." I was like, that's exactly what we needed right now, you know, so perfect, let's get it in there. So that actually became so strong that the guys from exterior started using those lines to accentuate their graphics as well, which is a really nice thing to happen because it's usually the other way around. But what we also got on the interior was much more angle towards the driver. You'll notice that everything's much more of a cockpit feel. You sit slightly lower in a more cosseted sport seat. So everything feels very much more like a sporty sedan, very dynamic. But one of the nicest things we did as well was make a very sporty steering wheel. It's probably the sportiest steering wheel that actually you can buy standard on a car. But we also played with the V for Volvo in the 3-spoke steering wheel. And I took the chrome, the racetrack, all the way around the back of the airbag and actually put the airbag just offset a little bit. So we have the floating airbag, just like the floating center stand. So it's a nice little play on words, but it actually alleviates the kind of, sometimes things get too tight and perfect, and this just lets the car breathe a little bit. It's a nice feature. We've got a brand new HMI in here. And remember that it's more of a classic radio. So imagine that this is a classic band where if you want radio, you go radio, media, you go media, and then you've got the usual tuning and volume. So it's very simple. You don't have to go into menus to do all the things you need.
Thank you.
Again, we twisted the center stack towards the driver. Everything feels very positive, and I'm sure you'll agree when you start driving, you get a very nice experience. But if you notice the doors as well, they also are very, very sculptured, also very much in this racetrack theme. And you see the lines coming through, forcing the direction of the car inside as well as outside. One of the nice things we did as well in the rear was sculpture the rear seats. We don't normally do this, but I wanted the rear passengers to also have a very sporty feeling. So we pushed the section in here down, but we also raised the bolsters up. And that gave two things. It gave support for both outside passengers, and I raised in the middle, so the person in the middle also gets support. And I don't think I've ever seen that on any other car. So you get a very nice seating position even in the middle seat, which is always the most compromised. Okay, that's the design walk around from me.